this lecture, we're going to talk about speaking in professional contexts. For this lecture, we're going to talk about 3 contexts in which you are likely to encounter some kind of presentation or public speaking. This video is by no means a comprehensive guide to any one of these 3 contexts, but this gives you a brief crash course on some basic ideas to consider when entering these contexts and how you can apply things from the public speaking course to these particular situations. We're going to talk about job fairs, interviews, and meetings. And we're going to look at all 3 of them through the simple lenses of purpose and audience. Now, a job fair has a particular purpose. It's looking for candidates. It's not looking to hire someone on the spot. That's not terribly common. In many cases, they're looking for people that they may want to interview in the future. That is the most common reason why a group or company would attend a job fair. If you attend any job fairs, you're going to see a lot of for-profit companies, large corporations, perhaps some smaller businesses, but you'll also see some government and nonprofit entities as well. What might be useful in going to any job fair is to go to one job fair during your college career without necessarily the intention of going and talking to people or interviewing too frequently. Now, if you're going in these contexts, what you really want to do is you still want to dress the part, you want to look professional because you never want to close any doors. However, going once and scouting it out will give you a better lay of the land, a better sense of your field. This can also be very beneficial for you to do early on in your college career, because if you look around at the types of entry-level jobs that are available and they don't look too satisfying, it's a good opportunity for you to reevaluate your training and skills. Or if you see that jobs are available and perhaps you don't have the right training and skills yet, you can then modify and change. So that way you're able to interview for the jobs you get. Now, when you are ready to talk to people at the job fair, what you really want to do is you want to make sure your resume is there, again, still professionally dressed. You want to look the part, just like you did when you're just looking around. But what's really important is that you sell yourself and you sell your basic qualifications as quickly as possible, because you have to understand that the company or organization is trying to do the same thing. At a job fair, everyone's looking at quantity and not necessarily looking at quality. A job fair is a good place to talk to a wide variety of people, and it's understood that you're going to talk to a wide variety of people. Be sure you bring plenty of copies of your resume, that they're all up to date, and that you're able to provide contact information should someone want to contact you for an interview. The goal here is, again, quickly as possible. So what's good to prepare is a good 30 seconds or so about yourself, your career goals, your aspirations, and maybe why you'd like to work at a particular place. Now, sometimes a job fair will have a situation where you see the perfect job or the perfect company, or maybe someone tries to talk to you, but this is a good opportunity not to sell yourself, but have that person sell themselves to you. Ask questions about, what does your company do? Who gets hired at your company? Do you hire people straight out of college? Do I need any extra training? This is a good time for you to test the company and test the person who's hiring you to see what they know and to get a better sense of what's out there. Now, moving from a job fair situation to an interview situation is a little different. The interview is a little more formal, a little more focused. You might get the interview as a result of a job fair, or you might get the interview as a result of another search. In this case, the company's purpose has changed a little bit. They've moved from trying to cast a wide net and get candidates to trying to focus down and get a specific person for a specific job. Now, what's worth understanding about the purpose is that an interview is often a very high-risk thing for a company. While you may be thinking about your own risks, should I move? Can I move? Is this in my field? Is this what I really want to be doing? Companies often have to consider their own risks as well. They might be paying for you to move. They might be putting someone else out of a job. They might be training you. They might be providing you with resources. And they might say, well, is this person going to stick around long enough? So this is a big risk for a company. So companies are often very nervous, in some cases more nervous than you are. So one thing to remember is that the company takes a big risk, but their major purpose is to find someone. Because searches and interviews are expensive and difficult and extremely time-consuming, companies are looking to hire somebody. Most companies and most organizations do not have interviews for fun. They're looking to hire someone. And that's their major purpose. Now, the audience, when it comes to an interview, is often very different than the job fair. The job fair audience is usually a recruiter who might like you, who might want you personally, but the recruiter's purpose, remember, is to get a lot of names, get a lot of potential contacts, and to try to get some good potential contacts, but in many cases a large quantity can work as well. Now, the audience of an interview can be very different, and it might be good to try and figure out who's going to be present at an interview. In some cases it might be a human resources representative who's going to be more concerned about a general idea. It might be a likely direct supervisor, someone who's going to look at you and maybe how you fit within a team. It might be someone who is a team lead, in other words, someone who's an expert in a particular field, who are going to evaluate your answers based on certain credentials and expertise. As much as you can, as the interview is being set up, it might be good to inquire about who will be attending the interview, so that way you can prepare and craft some of your answers or potential responses toward those people. The more you recognize specializations and their concerns, the more likely they are to respond to you positively. But a big key point in an interview, and you may hear this often from some people who say, yeah, you should fudge or you should exaggerate a little bit, this is usually not a good idea. In many cases, you want to treat an interview situation not as a one-way exchange. In other words, you are not presenting yourself to the company. The two of you are presenting yourselves to each other. So the company is not simply interviewing you, you are also interviewing the company. Now, you don't want the company to lie when you are asking questions. And some good questions to ask, by the way, are things about the resources. Not necessarily salary or benefits or things like that, but if you have a specific job that requires specific equipment or specific time or specific spaces, it might be good to ask if the company has those spaces. If they don't have those spaces, it might be good to ask if they have access to it or if they can help you get access. To some degree, this will help ensure that the company has dealt with whatever issues you may need in order to do your job. There's also some good things to ask about locations or people that you'll be working with and things that you can't necessarily find by looking on a website. Bad things to ask are things about mission or philosophy, especially with nonprofits, because those are things that you can often find by a cursory look at their website. So you want to make sure you're asking in-depth questions that may not show up, and you also want to make sure that you have enough resources in order to do your job. These are good questions to ask the company, and when you're trying to figure out if this company is a good fit for you, they're trying to do the same thing. So since they're trying to figure out if you're going to be a good fit, it's best not to lie. After all, sometimes a company not hiring you can be saving you from misery as well. You might think, this is the job for me, this is the job that I want, and I would be happy if I got this job. But if you have to lie and present a very, very different version of yourself in order to get that job, then maybe that's not the right job for you in the first place. The last thing we want to talk about, since we've already talked about job fairs and interviews, is we're going to talk a little bit about meetings. Now, meetings are most people's least favorite part of their professional life. In many cases, meetings are often a terrible time suck. In other words, they're just a vortex that takes away all people's valuable time. But meetings can be useful, and the major thing to remember about meetings are, again, purpose and audience. The audience's main goal is to get out of the meeting with as much information as possible, as quickly as possible. And so if your purpose in calling a meeting is to deliver information without any dialogue, it might be better to send out an email or a video rather than trying to call everyone in for a meeting. Meetings are best when you need a lot of discussion, and it can be helpful when a meeting has an agenda. Now, an agenda is usually a list of items of things that will be covered in a meeting. Some organizations will have very formalized agendas that are set from on high. Others will have more open, flowing discussions. Now, a key thing with having an agenda is trying to stick to it and respect it as much as possible. But you can find some companies maybe don't have agendas, or some meetings are maybe a little bit more free-flowing. What's good if you're new to a company is to go to meetings and say very little. Sit back and watch the flow of a meeting. Watch and see who says what kind of speech takes place, what kind of things are discussed frequently, what kind of things and issues are constant, what kind of issues are new. It doesn't mean to say, be quiet and don't speak up and hide yourself. But really what we want to do is say that it's good for you to get a good feeling of the purpose and the audience at every meeting. When you don't have a good sense of audience, it's good to sit back and listen and try and figure out what's going on rather than trying to determine what's going on and make your mark. And remember, whenever you're speaking at a meeting, think short and to the point. Everyone's goal in the meeting is to make sure the meeting ends quickly and efficiently, so the less time you talk, the better off you are.